So I was about to record this video a couple of days ago about the state of the White Sox budget and about how much money they have to spend, and then we had a couple new line items to add to that budget. So we will have the most up-to-date as of right this moment. The winter meetings are still going on, so who knows? By the time I finish recording this video, there might be new updates to announce. Nobody ever knows how much money their team really has to spend. We are going to look at the players that have come off the books, the estimated raises players are going to get, the scheduled raises players are going to get, the new additions, the new subtractions, and try to look at history a little bit to try to figure out how much money the White Sox might have in their back pocket to spend. The first thing to acknowledge is 2020 was a year where baseball teams lost money. They had no ticket revenues. They still did have TV revenue, and they expanded that revenue by having more playoff games. The Atlanta Braves are the only publicly traded baseball team, so we actually do have their books, and we have some idea about how much money they lost this year, even though this year is still in progress. The last quarter numbers aren't in yet, but we can somewhat extrapolate out what their deficit is. And even the Braves, who have a reasonable budget, they're not super high end, but they're also not a big market. We do know that they lost money. So if the Braves lost money, there's a good chance that everybody lost some money, and some teams lost a lot of money. Where are the White Sox in that mix? We have no idea. Now, there's the feeling that across the board, baseball teams are going to try to reduce payroll to make up for the fact that they lost money last year. There's also the belief that with the White Sox, with a 80-plus-year-old owner who absolutely loves baseball, and at one point even said that he would give all 6 Bulls championships just to get one White Sox championship. He said that before 2005, so fortunately he did not have to forfeit any NBA championships. But that's his level of love for the game of baseball. And he brought his pal back, Tony La Russa, who is a 70-plus-year-old manager. The window for these guys to get another championship is very small, so this might be a win now, spend now moment. That said, the White Sox still won't have the budget of a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees. Maybe that balances out, and we will just look at the budget for next year compared to the budget from this year. This year's budget was a team record, and we're going with the opening day budget back before we knew that we were going to play 60 games instead of 162. That budget was $128.25 million. Now, we did also pick up Jared Dyson mid-season, so obviously there was some room to grow there, and his actual dollars spent on him was about $370, so let's just round it around to $128.5 million. Now, like I said, 2020 represents a record for the most money the White Sox would spend to open the season, but where does that put them in the league? 17th place. Middle of the pack, just shy of right dead center of the pack. Let's go back in time to find the record that we broke. Well, that was just barely breaking it. It was $127.8 million back in 2011, so almost 10 years ago. Just going back to last year, we were in 26th place out of 30 teams with $88.9 million. The year before that, 29 out of 30 teams with $71.2. So within the last 3 years, the White Sox certainly saved money because the television deals were still in place. The money was still coming in from that. The White Sox are not the type to attract a ton of fans, but there is still gate revenue coming in, merchandising. The White Sox were definitely saving up for this rainy day, which is what is upon us right now. And even if you look at 2017, when we started the year with $97.8 million, just good for 23rd place, we sold off people mid-season and saved another $10 million. The White Sox certainly have an undisclosed amount of money in the coffers, but again, let's look at $28.6 or $7 million and see where the budget is going to move from there. So right away, we're going to look into the green with some recent moves, which is DFAing Carlos Rodon, which saved the team $4.45 million. Nomar Mazara also DFA'd at $5.56 million. That is $10.1 million already saved. Of course, there's a lot of players that are not going to factor into this at all. Yasmani Grandal is already on the books for $18.25 million. He made that much last year. He's going to make it next year. Same with Dallas Keuchel at $18 million. Plus, there's all of those minimum salary players that will get a small bonus over the league minimum, which is around $600,000 right now. We're not even going to really factor in those very, very minor numbers, which will be largely unchanged. The scheduled raises based on contracts signed in the past. Jose Abreu, especially after winning MVP, he's getting a very, very deserved $5 million raise from 12.66 to 17.66. Tim Anderson, who signed a long contract extension a while ago, is getting a nice $3.25 million raise for what he's giving the team. Still a huge bargain. going from a $4 million salary to $7.25. Larry Garcia had his option exercised. He gets a very modest raise from $3.25 million to $3.5 million. Eloy Jimenez, another one of these great signings that the White Sox did, these huge long-term contract extensions for very young talent. He was making $2.33. He's going up to $4.33, a $2 million raise. Yoan Moncada, yet another one. He gets a nice healthy raise, $5 million, $1.8 million to $6.8 million. Luis Robert, on his record contract for a guy who had never seen a pitch in Major League Baseball, is getting a raise from $1.5 million to $3.5 million. That's a $2 million raise. Another extension was given out to Aaron Bummer a while back. He's going to get a raise from $1 to $2 million. And Jace Fry is the only Sox player so far to avoid arbitration. He's getting a raise from $590,000, the league minimum, to $862,000 for his first year in arbitration, which is a raise of just $0.272 million. So all those arbitration raises, it sounded like so much, right? But that included raises to 8 players, most of them stars for our team. For those 8 players, that's a raise of $18.772 million. So already you see that we are in the hole with a more expensive team than the previous year by over $8 million. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. These next 4 players are all going to be tendered contracts. They are arbitration eligible. So these are estimates that you can find on Cots Baseball Contracts. They're probably the same ones that MLB Trade Rumors gives out. And so we have Evan Marshall in his second year of arbitration, getting a $1.15 million raise from $1.1 mil to $2.25. Lucas Gialito, who is somebody that I forgot to mention in my previous video. One of the reasons I'm hoping that the White Sox don't go too overboard with free agent signings this year is because I want the White Sox to have enough money to give Lucas Gialito a serious long-term extension. He's the only young star that doesn't have one yet for this team. He's hitting arbitration for his first time, and he's going to get a raise, an estimated raise, from $627,000 to $3.25 million. For a starting pitcher of his caliber, that's still super low, but it's also a massive raise when you look at the percentages there. That's a $2.623 million raise. Ronaldo Lopez was a non-tender candidate, but I'm happy that the White Sox brought him back. He has great additional depth from a starting pitching perspective, but he could really fill in that role that Ross Detweiler filled in the past as a long reliever out of the bullpen. He's going to ARB for the first time and estimated to get about $1.4 million, which is a $795,000 raise on his initial $605,000 contract. Adam Engel was making league minimum last year, $590,000. He is estimated to get a raise to about $1.25 million. That's $660,000. Those all might be pretty substantial raises when you look at the percentage of new money coming in. But that is 4 players, important members of this team, especially Gialito, getting raises that add up to $5.228 million. Now, let's take away some money. For players that were bought out this year, I'm going to put their buyout amount of money against this season. And if that's confusing, hopefully you'll see what I mean in just a moment. Edwin Encarnacion had a club option that the White Sox did not pick up. There was no buyout on that contract. He was paid $12 million next year. He is off the books, so right away, that's $12 million back, well more than twice enough to cover all of those arbitration raises. Alex Colomé made $10 million last year and was a fantastic closer for us. I hope the White Sox do sign him back, but for the time being, he made $10 million last year, and that is off the books, so there's another $10 million saved. Kelvin Herrera was a gamble the Sox took a couple years ago. He started the season with us, and we eventually just dropped him mid-season. He was paid $8.5 million last year, but guess what? He actually did have an option for this coming season, 2021. So he's just not money off the books. The White Sox had to pay a $1 million buyout, which that's where I'm saying I'm going to apply that to this season. So instead of an $8.5 million savings, it's just going to be a $7.5 million savings. James McCann, who everybody, myself included, want back with the White Sox. He made $5.4 million last year, and he's going to make a hell of a lot more this year, possibly with either the Angels or the Mets. The Mets are the leaders right now, but the Angels apparently are aggressively pursuing him. Steve Seashek was another reliever that didn't quite pan out for us. We paid him $5.25 million last year, and we ended up buying out his contract for $750,000. Meaning a net savings of $4.5 million. Gio Gonzalez, yet another case. He actually was pretty good for us, but we still bought him out. He ended the season on the injured list. I'm not sure how significant his injury was, but he will not be back with us. So he made $4.5 million last year. We bought him out for $500,000, a savings of $4 million. Ross Detweiler was a little bit over league minimum at $800,000. That is going to come off the book. And of course, Jared Dyson, we picked him up mid-season, paid him $370,000 for his 1 month of work with us. Not too shabby for a very light-hitting speedster. That $370,000 is coming off the books. That was a savings of guys leaving this team. Now, again, I really hope we get Colomé back. James McCann is not going to come back, but of course I'd like him back. Losing 8 players to free agency or buying them out, a net savings of $44.57 million. That more than makes up for the contract raises and all the arbitration raises. In that moment, that left the White Sox with a surplus of $30.58 million. Well, since I first started putting this list together, that number went down. Why? Well, we signed Lance Lynn. Fortunately for us, Lance Lynn signed a front-loaded contract with the Texas Rangers. It was 3 years, $30 million. The bulk of that money has already been paid out. Only $8 million remain. That is what the White Sox have to pay. However, he is taking the spot of Dane Dunning. Dane Dunning would have gotten paid $600,000, let's say. It is just a little bit more than league minimum, which is really a fair guess to where he would have ended up. Yes, we're paying Lance Lynn $8 million. You do have to subtract the money we would have paid to Dane Dunning, that $600,000. That's a net increase of $7.4 million. And of course, we picked up Adam Eaton right now. Just like last time I applied the buyouts to the next season, there's a potential buyout with Adam Eaton's contract, which if we buy it out, I would apply that to next year, not this year. So just for this year, he is getting $6 million. So that's an addition of 2 players and $13.4 million. So even after all of those raises, even with the addition of adding Lance Lynn, with paying all of these guys their arbitration or scheduled raises, and with adding Adam Eaton, the White Sox currently are still $17.18 million below last year's budget. And which is significant because we really do think that the White Sox have money to spend, that they will actually spend more than they spent last year. Now, of course, we still lost Alex Colomé. That's, $10 million right there. I'd be happy to have him back for that price, but we could actually probably get him back less because there's so much competition right now in the relief market. Word is that the White Sox are in on Liam Hendriks. If they get him, I doubt they're going to be paying him $17 million per year. I could be wrong on that. I could be proven wrong easily. But there's a good chance the White Sox could pick up 2 very high-end relievers, maybe even 3. The other big question right now is designated hitter. So there could be money set aside for that, whether it's a salary dump type of pickup, a team that it's not competing is paying a lot of money to a good slugger, and they're more concerned about getting out from under that slugger's contract versus getting something back. I would love a pickup like that. Essentially a salary dump, but for a player that still has some value. I was looking around the league. I went through all of the teams. Brandon Belt is at the top of my list. The Giants are paying him a good amount of money. He's in the last year of his contract. I don't want to tie up the designated hitter position because we've got some great guys coming up, but we do need at least a 1-year fix. I know Nelson Cruz is on a lot of people's wish lists, which I'd be all for that as well. He's looking for a 2-year deal. Maybe that's something that can happen because we have the money to burn. One thing, again, I'm just going to reiterate it. I don't want to spend a lot of money on a long-term piece because I want to make sure that we can keep Lucas Gialito for the long term. And he's going to demand a lot of money. First off, he's earned it, so give it to him. But he's already at arbitration. You can usually lock people up at very team-friendly deals early on, as we've done over and over and over again with Tim Anderson, Luis Robert, Gio Gonzalez, and back in the day, Adam Eaton, Jose Quintana, so on and so on. So the White Sox are in a very enviable position, both in terms of having a very talented team and having a lot of money available. The Adam Eaton signing was honestly pretty modest for what we needed to fill, but it might get the job done that's only possible because Adam Engel took the next step this past year and really was a very, very solid. We've always seen him as a very solid defender, but he showed he can swing the bat very capably last year. I think Adam Eaton only comes on because Adam Engel was so good last year. We could actually save some money on that front. Of course, we're saving money all over the place when it comes to the starting pitching for us. So the place to spend some money right now, do we do something with backup catcher, or do we let Zach Collins get more regular playing time? And then who do we bring from a designated hitter standpoint? That is where some significant money could potentially go. In addition, of course, first and foremost. Get another good, great pitcher out of the bullpen. But time will tell. There's a lot of action to come. Some of it may be sooner than later. Let me know what else you want to see on this channel. Let me know if you want to be a part of this channel in any way. If you want to be broadcasting yourself, just drop me a line. Let me know. Any other types of videos that you want to see me do, I'll happily do it. Leave comments, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.